Welcome to Believe in Biddeford. Thank you for tuning in today. Today we have Sarah Brule from Coastal Health Communities, and we have Lynn Waters as our Economic Development Coordinator here in the city of Biddeford. And we're here to talk to you about My Neighborhood Network, something that we're doing as a new planning and implementation effort here in Biddeford. Something that we're very excited about that has involved many different stakeholders, many different neighborhood groups, and all of this session today is about encouraging you to be involved. So with introductions, Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then Lynn, I'll ask the same of you, and then we'll begin the questions.
Sure. So I'm Sarah Brule with Coastal Healthy Communities Coalition. Yeah. We're a community health coalition that's actually part of the University of New England, and we serve the 9 towns in the Biddeford-Saco region of northern York County with health promotion and prevention work. And we've been around for about 20 years doing everything from nutrition to promoting physical activity to tobacco control work, but our emphasis now is substance use prevention for youth, lead poisoning prevention, also focusing on children, and nutrition education, which actually is programming with SNAP-Ed, which reaches all age groups.
And Lynn, how long have you worked for the city?
Almost 15 years. And community development coordinator, and do the entitlement program, which is our annual allotment that comes from HUD. And we spend U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
They would appreciate that.
And we do parks, we do sidewalks, and we also do social services. And My Neighborhood Network is part of that whole outreach of social services and a lot of the coordination that we do with Sarah and her entity. So it's been great for 15 years.
And right now the HUD money and you are stuck right in the middle of doing the Main Street improvements.
Yes.
And figuring out what we're going to do with that flower piece in our crosswalks and making them safer as we begin to do that. Well, so I guess, Lynn, maybe start with you and describe for us a little bit of the history of your planning efforts that really you've done pretty much by yourself for the last 14 years in Biddeford, and maybe focus on Bacon Street.
Bacon Street started about 14 years ago, and Bob Dodge, who was director at that time of the department, took me up there and dropped me off and asked me to revitalize the neighborhood. And it was the first time I'd done a neighborhood, so I got the people together. There were about 10, and we started with just a simple cleanup, and then it took off from there. And once people saw their neighborhood cleaned up, and I went on to have a little festival, which was supposed to be just a pony ride and a couple tables, and it bloomed into the Bacon Street Festival. So once they did that, then 46 Sullivan came up for sale, and of course we bought that, revitalized it, rehabbed it, and there's a neighborhood center in the bottom and housing on top, and we're doing the same with the rectory, which is almost complete. And then that attracted other revitalization and neighborhood cleanups and neighborhood efforts and community gardens and so forth.
Yeah, for people that haven't seen the community gardens, they should
absolutely beautiful up there.
Get over, and I guess our last remaining challenge, and it's the true challenge, is the future of St. Andre's Church.
Yes, yes.
And working with Guy at the Housing Authority and figuring out what we're going to do with that building and how to protect, I think, a really special structure, something that's really of interest. What would you say are some of the best accomplishments? I mean, I offer, from somewhat an outsider looking in, that just the face of Bacon Street has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. I mean, it's a place that you feel comfortable walking through. Maybe share some of your best parts of those efforts.
I think the investment in the neighborhood, that the neighborhood has made itself to make it stronger and a safer and better place, and to see the kids out in the community garden and knowing that their garden is going to be there the next day. And I think doing the Pearsons Lane neighborhood playground with Carl Walsh of the Rec Department, the Rotary, was a great accomplishment. So a terrible, awful lot, and it was turned into a playground, and the kids really appreciate that.
Yeah. How did you make your initial connections when you arrived?
I was very fortunate to be a Stone Soup Food Pantry was up there at the time, and so they were kind of the center in the neighborhood, and so our meetings were always held there. And of course, they were beloved and still are as a food pantry, and they were great, and a great kind of a co-worker in this whole effort, and the barbecues they put on for us and the things like that. And I want to say Carl Walsh and Joyful Harvest at that time were a tremendous help.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's part of what we're trying to listed a little bit here in this process, and maybe Sarah, you can tell us a little bit about what you foresee with our next steps in this neighborhood effort as we expand beyond Bacon Street, because we know that we've had some good experiences here. So maybe tell us a little bit about why this one is different, or is it a growth of, or et cetera.
I mean, I think it plays off of that important experience and Bacon Street having made those changes and being this neighborhood that you see today, and that the city seeing that and the city wanting to replicate that and ensure that all the different parties involved, from the neighbors to the community partners to the city itself, all have a stake in saying, let's make each neighborhood feel important, feel safe, feel healthy, and have the neighbors be part of driving that process. And so that the city is setting out saying, like, the priority is being healthy and safe and culturally diverse and quality, affordable housing. Those are big priorities and mean a lot to all of the neighbors in all of the neighborhoods. So Bacon Street has gone through lots of changes, and I think each neighborhood has lots of changes on the forefront, and so getting all these partners involved and neighbors driving it is a really important thing to see, hopefully replicate beyond Bacon Street and into other neighborhoods. And I think what's different really is that mission is about cultural diversity, quality, affordable housing, and healthy, safe housing and neighborhoods. That's where everyone wants to live.
Yeah, well, I think you're exactly right. Being in the forefront of this, I think we've talked about it being proactive, because we know the market's changing. We know the Mill District is recovering. We know the mills are redeveloping, and we know that there's this tremendous new population group that is coming into the community that's different, younger, from different places. But we also don't want to lose the community. We don't want to lose the origins of whether it's the Franco-American or even just the neighborhood continuity that's been there. So are part of your efforts in this process to try to work to protect that, and how do you both think that we might be doing that?
I received an email from someone that said that they had lived in their neighborhood for a number of years and told the history of the neighborhood. So I think people are interested in preserving that, at the same time integrating and being diverse and preserving that as well, and welcoming new people into the neighborhood. And I think that's all part of our efforts as well. And I would like to add that South Street followed Bacon Street in doing much of the revitalization that Bacon Street did. And again, is trying to preserve their neighborhood as well as welcome new people.
And where was the South Street piece coordinated out of?
Out of Seeds of Hope Neighborhood Center.
You want to talk a little bit about Seeds of Hope?
Yes.
They're an important partner.
Seeds of Hope is a very important partner, and they're going to be, as Sarah's going to talk about the neighborhood meetings, they're part of our efforts along with Bacon Street, because they are anchoring the south portion of the community with their center. And years ago, they were involved in their own efforts with planters and, of course, the park, rehabbing of the park and the acquisition of the properties, and just the whole resurgence of that area after a really tragic circumstance. So their story's a little different, but pattern just the same as Bacon and Bacon Street. And so it shows that these neighborhoods can replicate one another. And their titles actually came out of that whole thing. The South Street neighborhood, everyone knows where that is, and Bacon Street, everybody knows where that is. So they like it, and they like their identity.
Well, I think that's one of the things we've talked about as we reach out, and we've identified a number of other neighborhoods that we want to be part of this network. What is their identity? Who identifies with it? Is it a physical thing? Is it a visual thing? Is it a person? So maybe, Lynn, we'll start there and talk a little bit about the structure. And I guess, given that we've presented this and received the nod from City Council about this structure, it's important to recognize that we've been running this program by City Council, and that we're attempting to put something in place that they have, I would say, really encouraged us to move forward with. So talk a little bit about that structure.
Well, we do have a neighborhood planning committee, and on this committee is staffed with professional people, Heart of Biddeford director, police department, code, and so they're kind of overseeing the process in a way and advising and helping. They're a resource type of committee. They helped with the initial boundaries of the map, although that's totally up for reconsideration as we go out to the neighborhoods. And so that's their role. Then citizens in the neighborhoods can say, well, we'd like a bench. So they'll bring in someone from that resource, maybe Public Works, maybe someone who can get a piece of granite or whatever, community garden, and then that can be, they act as a resource. From there, if it's a project or program, we want to make City Council aware of what our neighborhoods are doing, as well as if there are any requests. It's not that, you know, it depends on funding and so forth, but the requests then go to the CAC. The CAC is the Citizens Advisory Committee, which has been in existence for 14 years on a very quiet basis.
Yep.
They are the eyes and ears on the neighborhood. They read every application that comes before them for funding with the entitlement, and they will be reviewing and looking at projects and ways that they might be able to help. So it'll go right up, and then I'm out there kind of like Spider Woman, I guess, holding everything together and working with Sarah.
The neighborhood ferry.
The neighborhood, that is the Bacon Street Ferry.
The Bacon Street Ferry. Growing up. The one thing I think that's important in talking about that network and the different pieces is the role that you bring, Sarah, and your organization. So maybe it's important first to talk a little bit about Coastal in a broader sense.
Sure.
And then I think in terms of the resources that you bring to the table and why we've developed this partnership.
Yeah. I mean, so as you just said, that steering committee is made up of city officials and then community partners, so Heart of Biddeford and Seeds of Hope, and then a community health coalition. So we fit right in there as a health coalition, where the nature of our work is the grant-funded programming that we do for youth for the health issues focused now on substance use prevention, nutrition, and childhood lead poisoning prevention. And we do it all through partnership. So everything we do is by nature working with schools, working with law enforcement, working with code, working with city officials, working with and through all this whole network of community partners who have long been on our advisory board or really helping us implement what we're implementing day to day. So we are, as a health coalition, a staff of 6, and we implement these programs, but we are sort of this broader network of those who
But that's the strength you bring
who
to
are
the table.
Influence and those who help identify the needs and help us work in implementing. If it's working with, you know, childhood lead poisoning, it's figuring out, well, which housing is at risk and how do property managers manage their properties responsibly, and how do families learn those risks and reaching those young families. And so, yeah, the nature of CHEC's work has been embedded into lots of different layers of community with a priority on, you know, health and safety and this being a great place to live and work and play. And so that's long been our work. And so the way that we fit into this initiative is helping with that building of a network and connecting of resources with a mind towards the My Neighborhood Network goals, where we can help the city and help those other partners on the steering committee get neighbors involved, figure out what projects are priorities, what resources people need to be linked to, and there's a lot of resources. So CHEC, we carry out nutrition education programming, and we work on substance use prevention and lead prevention. And that's sort of the assets that we have and the resources we make available. And then we link to so many other partners that Seeds of Hope has a range of services, and you know, Bicycle Center has a range of services. And so it's like our collective network has a lot to bring into the needs, the priorities, what's strong or what are some of the gaps as we talk to each neighborhood. There's a whole network at our fingertips.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the exciting part about it is, you know, when I arrived, you know, a while ago and I sat down with Lynn, one of the things that we realized is that we have a lot of different agencies and a lot of different private nonprofit housing providers spread throughout the city doing different things, and trying to get a handle on what was going on was kind of our first focus and where some of this thought process grew out of. But as you talk about Seeds and Coastal, maybe Lynn, tell us a little bit about the difference. I'm forgetting now whether we decide to call them hubs or centers.
Resource center.
Resource center, thank you. Maybe talk a little bit about the difference between the two resource centers.
Well, the two resource centers, one is up on Sullivan Street, 46 Sullivan Street, and it's been known as the Hub, and it's had a myriad of resources, and CPPC, which is one of our stakeholders, was occupying it and helping us out, and so that's been great, and now they have an even wider mission. So So we are working with Coastal Healthy Communities, which will be great too. So we're all kind of working together. And what it is that is more going to be probably more family oriented, the services there, more children oriented, youth. And with the alternative pathways across the street at the rectory and the bike center, it's a natural fit. Then with Seeds, we're looking at a lot of the adult services that Shirley provides now, Reverend Bowen, and expanding that with her and working with her. And she's a natural center right there, that whole entity of Seeds, so we're really happy. So it's like having two centers on either side of town, but that they can both work together and send people here and there or come up for a meeting or whatever is needed. So we'll be working together.
Well, I think we would be remiss in pointing out that we've had a great partnership with the Biddeford Housing Authority. For the rectory, for example, they've developed the first floor for alternative pathways and the second and third floor for apartments.
Yes,
That we're looking forward to seeing open in the near future as they get closer and
Yes.
closer to their completion.
So everything we do, we try to build a community element and then build affordable housing on top, which is great. And Biddeford Housing Authority acts as our developer so that we can hang on to our historic properties like the rectory.
And I think it's also important because people underestimate what you do for the community, but we just went through a HUD monitoring process that's pretty intense, where HUD comes in and really looks at our work, and they were really excited about the rectory work and a lot of our sub-agencies and what they were, sub-recipients, I guess the right term, and what they were doing. And I think that process was a good one for us, looking both introspectively and, they gave us a good feeling for going forward with where we were. So.
And I'm looking forward to working with Sarah and Coastal Healthy Communities. They've been great throughout the years. They've always been weaving in and out with the social services and always in the background. Talk about doing a lot of work. They do a lot of work in the community, and the lead-based paint issues and things. I've always been able to call Sarah, so they have a whole myriad of network of resources that they bring to the table. So I'm really looking forward to working with Sarah and her entity.
Well, okay, I'll see which one jumps forward with the answer to this question. Okay, you want to take a crack at describing our neighborhoods beyond just the Bacon Street and the South Street?
Look at me. I think that a lot of neighborhoods have identities that we don't know yet. And I'm really looking forward. I've been getting a few emails here and there from people who say that I know the history of our neighborhood, and I'm really excited to go out there with Sarah and learn the identity of these neighborhoods. And it seems from just talking with people that these neighborhoods have identities already. So I think that's going to be interesting for people that are new there and people that have been long-term residents. And we're going to be doing some of that by doing some engaging things when we get together and meet. And so that'll be really exciting, and having refreshments. And we encourage the children to come and draw a picture of their neighborhood and that they like, and we have a prize for them. So that'll be exciting. But I think every neighborhood can be a great neighborhood. And
we have, what, 6 or
we have 7, but there'll be 5 meetings to start with because some don't have a meeting places yet.
Okay.
So it's very exciting, and to get out
Well,
there.
let's talk about the meetings and what people should be looking for.
Yeah, so we want to kick off introducing the idea of My Neighborhood Network, which we're talking about now, and sort of has these goals of having people have a defined sense of what neighborhood they live in and what they're proud of and what they want to work on, and how to get engaged in this. It's an ongoing planning process, and just links to resources and more social connection. And to begin with, those neighborhoods were sort of defined by that steering committee, and we're going to have one meeting in each of these neighborhoods, which is about an hour long, and it's an open invite to say, come and get to know this process and get to know your neighbors and have a conversation and win a prize if you bring kids. And we just wanted to be the kickoff of a dialogue of saying, how do you define this neighborhood, and welcome to this process. We would love it if each of the neighborhoods ends up with sort of one focal point of a neighbor who says, I want to stick with being part of this process, and I can be a lead on this area, so that we're not assigning a neighborhood lead. It should be citizen driven. But those meetings are scheduled already. We have 3 that will be taking place at the end of July into the first week of August. And we want a welcoming, informal conversation and have people.
Do we have some dates and times at this point?
Yes, we do. Do you have the details?
I do.
Okay,
So
great. I'm
the
glad you
first
brought them.
one is in a neighborhood that doesn't have a character or a name just yet, but the meeting will be at Roomery's Boatyard. Maybe the neighborhood is Water Street. Maybe there's other names for it that we'll learn.
Okay.
So on July 31st at 4 p.m. at Roomery's Boatyard will be the first kickoff meeting for neighbors in that area. On Thursday, August 2nd at 11 a.m., the South Street neighborhood will be convening at Seeds of Hope. And then the third one that's scheduled would be on Monday, August 6th at 1 p.m. And that's going to be at the Canopy Park Resource Center at 46 Sullivan Street for what is characterized as the Bacon Street neighborhood.
Okay.
So Water Street, South Street, and Bacon Street will have the kickoff meetings.
And as you talk about volunteers and you're looking for volunteers, is there a defined role or job, or outside of looking for members to serve on the CAC, the Citizen Advisory Committee, which will theoretically ultimately represent each neighborhood and be the voice that goes between the council and this effort. It's almost any role that they want to grasp.
Sure.
Short, long term.
Getting the word out for us when we have a meeting, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Neighbor talk to a neighbor, that's the best kind of communication you can have.
Well, we're coming towards the end, so I think it's time to talk a little bit about the Bacon Street Festival itself. And maybe you can give us a little bit of history, and I think you talked about it a little bit, but a little more detail.
All right, the Bacon Street Festival started as part of, we joined National Night Out, which is a night to stand up for your neighborhood. And it doesn't just have to be a neighborhood that has had or is having difficulties or negative issues. It can be any neighborhood that just wants to make a statement that this is our neighborhood and this is the way we like it, and stand up for that, stand together. And so we're part of National Association of Town Watch. We have won 8 awards over the years for our participation in the festival and National Night Out and our revitalization efforts in our neighborhoods. And the only community in Maine to have won an award, and we compete with approximately 15,000 plus communities for that award. 190 are given out approximately. So the city people should be really proud of themselves.
Yeah.
The festival is staffed by a lot of the organizations come, and it's all free. There are free pony rides, a petting zoo. The fire department comes and shows their truck, and police department brings a smokehouse, and the fire department and the police come, and a lot of programs are there and services, and it's a free day for families and guardians and children to come. There's free prize, everything is free. So we encourage everyone to come, and beyond the neighborhood, we encourage people to come and see what's been done in the neighborhood and see the revitalization that's been going on.
The location?
Is going to be in the St. Andre Senior Housing parking lot on Sullivan Street.
As it's been, I guess,
as it has been since
forever?
last year.
Oh,
I used to be out in the street, but we found a nice, safe place so the kids didn't have to worry. It's fenced in.
Okay.
And it'll be from 12 noon to 4 p.m., rain or shine, on August 5th, Sunday.
Yep, okay.
So we're looking forward to everybody coming out and having a great time. And we have music. You can get up and dance. There'll be a rock climbing wall. It's a good time. It's good family time, and food. Food, definitely.
Well, I certainly encourage anybody in the community to come to this, and I think in particular because Bacon Street is a neighborhood to celebrate. I think we all know at one point where it was and where it is today.
Right.
It's what we strive for. So you're stepping into this for the first time. If you had an outstanding goal that you wanted to achieve in the first year of the program, what would it be for you and Coastal?
It's interesting to think about. I think as I've been part of these discussions, personally and sort of from the position of a health coalition, my eyes are open to just how many resources and strong partnerships and sort of really assets there are in Biddeford. If it's a festival, if it's a resource center, there just really are so many. So I think being part of the sort of coordination and increasing the visibility of that and the connections of that for residents. If I can be a part of that, I think it'll be great. And if it is a festival and it's the Canopy Park Resource Center and it's this planning process, bringing all those moving parts together is, if we look at it a year from now, I think it would be great to see that they're sort of all harmonized and visible, and citizens feel really connected to them.
Well, I think from my perspective, I think it's also special to have an association with the University of New England.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is our university and our community. I think that's a special connection that we can build upon and make a lot stronger. And you're certainly being that first step.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming today, and I'm looking forward to attending the festival for the first time, and looking forward to, when I can, attending some of the neighborhood meetings, and looking for that to be a huge success, and bringing back what we find to City Council as they look for ways to deal with these issues in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you.